Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. More than ever before, I know who is here, who is watching, who is listening. The interesting part of this, which we would call the new time, is that there are energies you didn't expect, energies of cohesion, if you want to say, of togetherness, of coherence, that are starting to come into this planet, mainly because of what is going on with you, that never would have come in before. A reboot, some have called it, one that is not comfortable, some of that, which is sorrowful. I would like to discuss something over the next 4 channels. This one is number 1. And those listening at some level will say, oh no, I'm going to miss the second or the third or the fourth, or those listening to the second one and know where the first one was. If you're one of those who will not be able to hear the others in the time that they're given, I will say these should be heard together. My partner at this moment has made an arrangement for this to work for you. And that which he calls his website has all of these together for you to see and find and hear at no cost. Dear ones, I want you to hear all 4. And the reason for that is they go together in a beautiful scenario with a surprise at the end. I'm going to call this the influential field of the human being. The influential field of the human being. And in the 4 channels, we'll talk about 4 of the attributes of that influential field of the human being. We speak of things which are known, and yet they are not agreed to, not recognized. Some of them which are so intuitive to humanity, people don't even want to hear. I talk about that which is not necessarily an energy field, but it's a consciousness extension of your humanity. It's actually a consciousness extension of your biology, of your brain, you might say. It's not just humanity. It also extends to other living things, to the animal kingdom and beyond. Have you ever wondered how those who are perhaps in the field as the buffaloes or others would be able to sense the enemy, not smell them, sense them? And the entire herd will then change direction and take off and all together, as though there were a signal or a gun went off, and nothing of the sort happened. Instead, they had sensed what was going on, and they all moved together. All through nature, you have this, and it's a survival sensing. In humans, you call it a 6th sense. And so many are aware that it is there, but it becomes sometimes the subject of metaphysics instead of science. It is science. The field exists. There is an influential consciousness antenna, if you want to call it that, around every single one of you. I'm going to use some examples I've used before. You go into the theater, you sit next to a person, and you move. And you move because you are uncomfortable for some strange reason with the person that you sat next to. What you are sensing is unbalance or sickness or whatever it is that your survival says, not right for you, not now, I'm moving. Now, how do you then prove that? How do you measure that? The answer is, at the moment, it isn't. And because you can't see it or measure it, it becomes the talk of those who are woo-woo and the talk of those who are, not quite with it. Someday, those who are not quite with it will be seen as the new scientists, because they are indeed on track. It's real. There are so many of these kinds of things. How many of you have been in a place where you're simply sitting or eating, you're waiting, you're doing something, and you sense someone is staring at you, perhaps from behind? And when you can, you suddenly look around, and you're right. They are staring at you. Where did that come from? What's that called? What's the mechanics of it? You were influenced, were you not, by someone behind you who was looking. Their consciousness interfacing with your field, the two of you together, and you locked in. There's something going on. What is the process for the human being being able to sense the crystalline grid? You walk into a battlefield that is not marked and you feel something's happened. The crystalline grid is broadcasting this energy, but how is it being received? What is the mechanism that you would receive this energy? That's the field. That's the influence that you're having walking into that battlefield, and you feel something. It has influenced you, has it not? You start to feel the energy, or the one behind you who is looking at you, or the one who is sitting next to you in the theater. How big is that field? I will give you an example that you will say, well, it's not exactly right. Oh, yes, it is. I've said before, twins can feel energy between themselves, each one, even if they're on the opposite sides of this planet. When something happens in one's life, the other one seems to sense it and will call. Now, you'll say, well, that's not fair because they share the same DNA. What's fair is this. I will tell you, DNA has a field. In their case, it is fast. In your case, you're still sensing something, and it can be on the other side of the earth. There is no limit to quantum energy. These things are so controversial. Oh, but they exist. How do you deal with something that you know exists, and yet no one will acknowledge it? There is an influential field around you, dear ones, a big one. We've told you before that it goes both ways. You can be influenced by it, and at the same time, you can contribute to it. Here's what I mean. How many times have you heard me say to you that balance is contagious? If you are peaceful and content with yourself, and you're not in anxiety all the time, if you have that persona that is mature, that as you carry this around, people are attracted to it. They're attracted to you. You are the one they can talk to. You are the one who will not judge them. You are the one they can sit at your feet, and for a moment, they feel balanced as well. They are under your mature influence, their field and your field. And the reason I'm giving you this information, and the reason all four channels should be listened to, is because this is the core of all four. This is the process, which we will review each time, but not like this. Premise: every single human being has a consciousness field that is partially quantum, which means you can't measure it, that senses things and reacts. That field can go in both directions. You can sense things, and you can also put into the field that which you wish to, that may there influence the others. Did you get that? You put into your field something that then influences the others who have an influential field. So when you stand around people, what is the influence that you're going to send to them? The first of the four in this channel will not be long, because it's the one that I want you to know about. It's the one that is the most influential because it's primal and it's survival, and it's the one you should know about and look for and be aware of, so you know what's going on. And it's called fear. Fear is influential. And if there are those who are fearing around you, that can cause you to fear. And you know I'm right. It's the premise, even of some movies. You get enough people frightened in a theater, they're all frightened. They see what it is they see, they're influenced by the story. You know I'm right. But beyond that, it is also the methodology of some who would frighten you on purpose to allow you or influence you to do things. One of them, right now, is called mass media. It is the commercial media, the old media that you've had for so long, and there's no conspiracy, dear ones. They are doing it out of habit. They're doing it as what they know works. If they frighten you enough, you'll stay tuned and you'll buy their products. Not being aware that it has a moral obligation not to frighten, but to soothe. Mass media, especially that which you call the news, should be invested in giving you information and also soothing you with the truth of it and being balanced with both sides of it. Look for a media someday that will always close everything they've said, not with startling music or doom and gloom, but with a positive note given intelligently and maturely by somebody you trust. That will be the new media. That will be the new news. And if until you see it, you know what you're looking at is programmed fear. Those of you who watch the media a lot know this. You don't feel real good, do you? But you're attracted, you're glued to it because it is it's an influential field, it's influencing you. That's number one, and I give it to you so you'll know it's there. Now, if you know it's there, what can you do about it? And if you recognize this is something that's programming me, and you see it, it is something that I did not create. It's influencing me in a way that's not making me feel good. And then you have a choice. Stop watching it. Get your news in a better way where you can perhaps read it, perhaps from a website. And you can read the things that you wish to read, and you can stop if it looks like they are influencing you with a bias of fear. Fear is just one of the four. The others are spectacular, and they're beautiful. And that's going to be number 2, 3, and the surprise of 4. What you get out of this channel is this. You all know that fear works. Why do you feel the way you feel when you hear frightening things? What is it? It's the field. It's that influence that you put out there and the consciousness that it's put out there and the result of it. You know I'm right, and it is real. How would you like to see the other side of it? How would you like to see what it can do in this new energy, where it's going in this new energy? How you can influence you. It goes so many ways. It's so real, palpable. You can touch it almost. It's so real. It's real in nature. It's real in you. I want you to listen to number 2, number 3, and number 4. It's the beginning of an understanding of why things work the way they do. So when it comes time for something spectacular, it will not seem to be out of the sky. It'll be something out of you that's natural, understandable, beautiful, and is part of your legacy. I'll be back. And so it is.